In the year 2157, humanity's deep space monitoring network detected something that would forever change the course of our species. The quantum entanglement sensors, scattered throughout the Kuiper Belt, picked up massive energy signatures moving through neighboring star systems. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead scientist at the Deep Space Observation Center in Antarctica, knew immediately that these weren't natural phenomena. The signals painted a clear picture. A massive alien armada was methodically conquering systems along the Orion arm of the galaxy. Their pattern of movement suggested Earth would be reached within 50 years. But it wasn't just the impending invasion that troubled the world's leaders. It was the intercepted communications that revealed the true nature of their enemy. The hegemony, as they called themselves, was a federation of 7 alien species united under a singular goal: the subjugation of all lesser civilizations. Their definition of lesser was simple: any species that hadn't achieved faster than light travel independently. Earth, despite its remarkable progress in the last century, still relied on experimental wormhole gates for interstellar travel. Admiral James Rodriguez stood before the United Earth Council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing the hegemony's advance. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "conventional warfare won't save us. Their smallest ships are the size of our largest space stations. Their technology surpasses ours in almost every metric." He paused, letting the gravity of his words sink in. Almost every metric. What the Admiral revealed next was a project so ambitious it bordered on madness. For the past 15 years, a secret division of the United Earth Space Force had been developing something unprecedented: a warship built around a dwarf planet. The project, codenamed Olympus, proposed converting Ceres into humanity's first mobile fortress. The concept wasn't entirely new. Humanity had been hollowing out asteroids for mining and habitation for decades. But this was different. This would turn an entire dwarf planet into an active mobile weapons platform. The engineering challenges were astronomical, but humanity had one advantage the hegemony didn't: necessity-driven innovation. Dr. Chen's team had discovered that the hegemony's technological development had plateaued centuries ago. Their vast empire and overwhelming numerical superiority had eliminated the need for radical innovation. They improved their existing technologies incrementally, but they hadn't made a revolutionary breakthrough in over 300 years. The council chambers erupted in heated debate. The resources required for Project Olympus would drain Earth's economy. The technical challenges seemed insurmountable. The risk of detection during construction could trigger premature invasion. But as the debates raged on, a simple truth emerged. They had no choice. Admiral Rodriguez's final argument silenced the chamber. The hegemony expects us to build bigger ships, better weapons, stronger shields, all using conventional thinking. They expect us to follow the same technological path they did. But humanity has always excelled at the unexpected. They look at a dwarf planet and see a dead rock. We look at it and see potential. The vote was unanimous. Project Olympus would proceed, but with a crucial modification. They wouldn't build just one planet-sized warship. They would build 3. Ceres would become humanity's first mobile fortress, followed by Vesta and Pallas. Each would be transformed into a self-contained world, capable of housing millions and armed with weapons that could reshape the solar system itself. As the project began in secret, humanity faced its greatest engineering challenge. They needed to hollow out dwarf planets while keeping them structurally sound, install propulsion systems capable of moving planetary masses, and develop weapons that could channel the energy of a small star, all while maintaining the appearance of normal mining operations to any watching eyes. The next decades would push human ingenuity to its absolute limits. But for the first time since detecting the hegemony, humanity had hope. They weren't just building warships. They were creating arcs of civilization, mobile fortresses that could ensure humanity's survival even if Earth itself fell. As Dr. Chen watched the first teams deploy to Ceres, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. The hegemony thought they were approaching a primitive species that would easily fall before their mighty fleet. Instead, they were about to encounter something unprecedented in galactic history. A species that turned entire worlds into weapons of war. 10 years into Project Olympus, Chief Engineer Maya Patel stood in the central control chamber of Ceres, surrounded by holographic displays showing the dwarf planet's transformation progress. What had once been a cold, lifeless rock was becoming something unprecedented in human history, a machine of war larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The engineering challenges had seemed insurmountable at first. How do you hollow out a planetary body while maintaining its structural integrity? How do you create propulsion systems capable of moving something with the mass of a small planet? The solutions came from thinking beyond conventional space engineering. Instead of traditional engines, Maya's team developed a revolutionary quantum displacement drive. The system created localized space-time distortions around Ceres, allowing it to move through space without conventional thrust. The energy requirements were astronomical, but they solved this by building artificial quantum singularity cores deep within the planet's restructured interior. The hollow spaces within Ceres weren't just empty caverns. They were carefully engineered cellular structures, inspired by the internal architecture of human bones. Each chamber reinforced the others, creating a lattice that was actually stronger than the original solid mass. These spaces housed hydroponic farms, manufacturing centers, and entire cities that could sustain millions of people indefinitely. But the most ambitious aspect of the project was the weapons system. Traditional weapons would be useless against the hegemony's advanced shields. Instead, they developed something the aliens would never expect: gravitational lance arrays. These weapons could temporarily focus the artificial gravity field of Ceres itself, creating beams of concentrated gravitational force that could tear apart even the largest enemy ships. The project wasn't without its setbacks. During the third year of construction, a quantum singularity core nearly went critical, threatening to transform Ceres into a miniature black hole. It took Maya's quick thinking and the sacrifice of an entire automated construction fleet to prevent disaster. The incident led to the development of new containment protocols that would later prove crucial to the project's success. As work continued on Ceres, similar transformations began on Vesta and Pallas. Each planetoid was being given its own specialization. Ceres, the largest, would be the main battle platform. Vesta was being optimized for carrier operations, capable of launching swarms of automated fighter craft. Pallas would become a mobile repair and manufacturing center, able to sustain the fleet during prolonged engagements. The greatest challenge wasn't technical. It was secrecy. The construction had to appear to be nothing more than standard mining operations to any watching eyes. They developed sophisticated holographic arrays that could mask the true nature of their work, making the dwarf planets appear unchanged to outside observers. Every worker knew that discovery before completion would doom the project and possibly humanity itself. 20 years into the project, Maya received an urgent message from the quantum entanglement sensors. The hegemony's advance had accelerated. They would reach Earth in 15 years, not 30 as originally estimated. The news sent shockwaves through the project. They needed to work faster, but rushing could lead to catastrophic failures. Maya found herself making impossible decisions daily. Which systems could be simplified? Which redundancies could they eliminate? Every choice could mean the difference between victory and extinction. But as she watched her teams push themselves beyond all reasonable limits, she saw something extraordinary: human ingenuity at its finest. Engineers worked in zero for days without rest, developing new solutions on the fly. Theoretical physicists collaborated with practical mechanics, finding ways to bend the laws of physics without breaking them. The quantum computers ran simulations around the clock, testing and refining every system until they approached perfection. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Chen's team, still monitoring the hegemony's communications, discovered a crucial weakness. The alien shield technology, while incredibly advanced, operated on predictable frequencies. Maya's team realized they could tune their gravitational lances to these exact frequencies, allowing them to bypass the seemingly impenetrable defenses. As the 30th year of construction approached its end, Maya stood in Ceres' central command sphere, now a vast chamber filled with crystalline quantum computers and holographic interfaces. The dwarf planet was no longer just a planetary body. It was humanity's ultimate expression of defensive will. Its systems were tested, its weapons were primed, and its massive crews were trained and ready. The other two planetoid warships were nearing completion as well. Together, they represented not just humanity's military might, but its ability to adapt, innovate, and overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Maya knew that when the hegemony finally arrived, expecting to find a primitive civilization ready for conquest, they would instead encounter something unprecedented, a species that had turned worlds themselves into weapons of war. As she initiated the final systems check, Maya couldn't help but smile. The hegemony had spent centuries perfecting their existing technology. Humanity had just invented entirely new branches of science out of desperate necessity. They were about to learn a lesson that Earth's history had taught countless times before. Never underestimate a species fighting for its survival. The hegemony arrived 5 years earlier than expected. Their first ships emerged from hyperspace near Neptune's orbit, a vanguard fleet of vessels each the size of Earth's largest cities. Admiral Rodriguez watched from Ceres' command sphere as the quantum sensors tracked their approach. As the alien ships retreated toward Neptune's orbit, Dr. Chen's quantum sensors detected massive energy signatures. The hegemony was calling for reinforcements. They're sending data bursts through their faster-than-light communications network, she reported. From the signal strength, they're reaching out to every fleet in their empire. Admiral Rodriguez nodded, watching the tactical displays. Good. Let them come. Humanity spent 30 years preparing for this moment. It's time to show the galaxy that the age of easy conquest is over. The 3 planetary warships moved into defensive positions around Earth. Their crews, millions strong, prepared for the greatest battle in human history. They had transformed worlds into weapons, but more importantly, they had transformed humanity's place in the galaxy. Win or lose, no one would ever again mistake humanity for an easy target. In the silence before the storm, as the hegemony gathered what would undoubtedly be the largest fleet ever assembled, humanity stood ready. They had done what no other species had even imagined possible. They had turned the very stuff of worlds into the means of their defense. Now they would show the galaxy exactly what happened when you pushed humanity into a corner. 3 days after the Vanguard fleet's retreat, the hegemony returned. They emerged from hyperspace in waves, their ships darkening the space between Mars and Jupiter. Dr. Chen's quantum sensors registered over 10,000 capital ships, each one larger than anything humanity had built before their planetary conversions. Behind them came the support vessels, stretching out in an armada that seemed to go on forever. From his command post, deep within Ceres, Admiral Rodriguez watched the tactical displays with steady eyes. Well, he said to his staff, they certainly didn't disappoint. That's the largest fleet I've ever seen. The Admiral's calm demeanor belied the tension in the command sphere. This was the moment that would determine humanity's future. The hegemony's new commander, Grand Marshal Xithar himself, appeared on all channels. His crystalline exoskeleton blazed with patterns that the xenologists interpreted as supreme confidence mixed with rage. Your defiance is unprecedented. The translation came through. But it ends today. These abominations you've created will not save you. The natural order of the galaxy will be restored. Maya Patel, monitoring Ceres systems from engineering, couldn't help but smile at the irony. The natural order the alien spoke of was about to receive a serious revision. The 3 planetary warships had taken up their defensive positions around Earth, their massive forms casting shadows across space. Each one had been designed not just as a weapon, but as a counter to specific hegemony tactics that Dr. Chen's team had studied for decades. The battle began with a display of force that would have annihilated any conventional defense. Thousands of hegemony ships fired simultaneously, their energy weapons turning space itself into a lattice of destructive power. But humanity had prepared for this. The gravitational field generators built into their planetary warships activated, bending the incoming fire around their massive hulls. Then Ceres demonstrated why size really did matter in space warfare. Its gravitational lance arrays powered up, drawing energy from its quantum singularity cores. The beams that emerged were invisible to the naked eye, but their effects were unmistakable. Dozens of hegemony capital ships found themselves caught in focused gravitational fields millions of times stronger than Earth's. Their supposedly impenetrable shields meant nothing against forces that distorted spacetime itself. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to break apart as ships were literally torn to pieces by gravitational forces they had never encountered before. But the hegemony hadn't conquered half the galaxy by being easily defeated. They adapted quickly, spreading their formation to reduce the effectiveness of the gravitational weapons. That's when Vesta made its move. The dwarf planet's surface seemed to come alive as hundreds of thousands of automated fighters emerged from its hangars. These weren't the simple drones the hegemony was familiar with. Each one carried a miniaturized version of the quantum displacement drive, making them nearly impossible to track or target. The battle transformed into chaos as Vesta's fighter swarms engaged the enemy fleet. The automated craft didn't attack with conventional weapons. Instead, they created localized space-time distortions around enemy vessels, disrupting their ability to maneuver or target effectively. The hegemony's superior numbers meant nothing when their ships couldn't coordinate their actions. Pallas, the third converted dwarf planet, proved its worth as the battle stretched from hours into days. Its manufacturing centers worked continuously, replacing lost fighters and repairing damage to its sister ships. The hegemony found themselves in a war of attrition against opponents that could literally rebuild themselves during combat. The turning point came when Grand Marshal Xithar ordered his reserves into a desperate frontal assault on Ceres. It was exactly what Admiral Rodriguez had been waiting for. Ceres' secondary weapon systems activated. Thousands of antimatter missiles, each one carrying a payload that could vaporize a small moon. The hegemony's tightly packed formation turned from an advantage into a death trap. The battle space lit up with artificial suns as the antimatter weapons found their marks. Dr. Chen's sensors registered the deaths of hundreds of capital ships in the span of minutes. The hegemony fleet's coordination began to break down as command ships were destroyed faster than new ones could take their place. After 5 days of continuous combat, the unthinkable happened. The hegemony fleet began to retreat. Not in the ordered withdrawal they were famous for, but in a chaotic rush to escape the killing field that the Sol system had become. Their formation shattered, their confidence broken, the supposedly invincible armada fled before weapons they had never imagined possible. As the last enemy ships disappeared into hyperspace, a profound silence fell over the command sphere. Humanity had done more than win a battle. They had shattered the myth of hegemony invincibility. The quantum sensors detected massive communications between the retreating fleet and the hegemony's core worlds. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Admiral Rodriguez looked at the casualty reports with a grim satisfaction. The planetary warships had suffered damage, yes, but nothing they couldn't repair. More importantly, Earth was safe, and humanity had proven that innovation and determination could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. As the 3 massive warships moved back to their defensive positions, their crews began the work of repairs and reconstruction. They had changed the galaxy forever. No longer would Earth be seen as a primitive world ripe for conquest. They had become something unprecedented, the species that turned planets into weapons, and in doing so, rewrote the rules of warfare itself. In the months following the Battle of Sol, the galaxy underwent a transformation more profound than any in recent memory. The defeat of the hegemony's greatest fleet had sent shockwaves through every civilized world. Dr. Chen's quantum surveillance network detected an unprecedented volume of diplomatic traffic between alien species as the balance of power shifted dramatically. The first surprise came 3 weeks after the battle. A delegation from the Concordat, a loose alliance of species that had so far managed to maintain independence from the hegemony, arrived at the edge of the solar system. Their ships maintained a respectful distance from Earth's planetary defenders as they transmitted their request for diplomatic contact. Admiral Rodriguez and Dr. Chen sat in on the first meeting, held in a specially constructed neutral station orbiting Luna. The alien diplomats, representing 12 different species, were far more interested in learning than threatening. How had humanity managed to convert entire planetary bodies into functional warships? Would Earth be interested in sharing this technology? More importantly, would humanity consider joining the Concordat as a leading member? Maya Patel, invited to explain the engineering principles behind the planetary conversions, found herself becoming humanity's unofficial ambassador to the galaxy's scientific community. The solutions her teams had developed, the quantum displacement drives, the gravitational lance arrays, the structural integrity systems, represented entirely new branches of physics that other species had never explored. But the real changes came from within the hegemony itself. The defeat at Sol had shattered their aura of invincibility. Within weeks, previously subjugated species began demanding greater autonomy. The hegemony's military response was hampered by the loss of so many ships and crews in the Battle of Sol. More importantly, their remaining fleet commanders had lost the absolute confidence that had made them such effective conquerors. 6 months after the battle, the hegemony sent its own diplomatic mission to Earth. The terms they offered were unprecedented in their history. They proposed a treaty of mutual non-aggression and recognition of Earth's sovereignty over the Sol system. More tellingly, they requested permission to send scientific observers to study humanity's technological achievements. The United Earth Council debated these offers extensively. The prospect of becoming a major galactic power was tempting, but they hadn't built their planetary warships out of a desire for empire. They had created them out of necessity, to defend their home and ensure humanity's survival. After much discussion, they chose a middle path. Earth would join the Concordat, but as an equal member rather than a dominant power. They would share some of their technological advances, but not the specific engineering details of the planetary warships. These would remain humanity's ultimate insurance policy against future threats. The hegemony's offer of non-aggression was accepted, but their request for scientific observers was politely declined. 1 year after the battle, humanity had established diplomatic relations with 27 alien species. Trade agreements brought new technologies and cultural exchanges to Earth, while human innovations in physics and engineering spread throughout the galaxy. The planetary warships remained on guard, but their role had shifted from pure military deterrence to symbols of humanity's unique approach to problem-solving. Admiral Rodriguez, speaking at the first anniversary commemoration of the Battle of Sol, summed up the transformation. "We built these ships because we had to survive. But in doing so, we proved something fundamental about humanity. When faced with impossible odds, we don't just adapt, we revolutionize. We don't just overcome challenges, we transform them into opportunities. We turned entire worlds into weapons not because we wanted to rule the galaxy, but because we refused to be ruled." Dr. Chen's team continued to monitor galactic communications, but the patterns had changed. Where once they had tracked military movements and invasion plans, now they followed diplomatic exchanges and scientific collaborations. The galaxy had learned a crucial lesson. Humanity might not be the most advanced species, but they were possibly the most innovative. Maya Patel found herself leading the new initiative, the Planetary Engineering Corps. While the original 3 warships remained dedicated to Earth's defense, her teams began exploring new applications of their revolutionary technologies. They designed hollow worlds that could serve as generational ships for deep space exploration, developed sustainable habitats that could turn lifeless planets into thriving colonies, and created mobile research stations that could study astronomical phenomena up close. The age of conquest in the galaxy had ended, replaced by an era of cooperation and innovation. Humanity's planetary warships had not just defended Earth. They had demonstrated that there were always alternatives to established powers and traditional thinking. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had proven that true advancement came not from perfecting old technologies, but from daring to imagine entirely new possibilities. As Earth celebrated its new position in the galactic community, construction continued in the asteroid belt. The planetary warships would remain, ready to defend not just humanity, but the new peace they had helped create. They stood as monuments to human ingenuity and determination, reminding the galaxy that sometimes the best way to prevent a war is to be so well prepared for it that no one dares to start one. The future stretched out before humanity, filled with possibilities that even they had never imagined. They had turned worlds into weapons out of necessity, but in doing so, they had also turned fear into hope, isolation into connection, and the threat of extinction into the promise of a new dawn for all species who valued independence and innovation.